name is Nicole. I'm a producer for the Remembering Them podcast. The podcast is a platform for people to share stories and memories of their loved ones who have passed away. The podcast was created in memory of Dad, Bob Cecil. May he rest in peace. Your host, Mark, Ryan, and Luke acknowledge the rich history and importance of storytelling within the indigenous culture.
My name is Jorgi Skeen, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here today. Today we're meeting in Meanjin, and those traditional owners are the Yagara and Turrbal people. And I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge my people, the Gubbi Gubbi people, and extend that acknowledgement to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening in today.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the podcast. Just Mark on a recording by the looks of it today. Luke is unfortunately double booked, and Ryan I haven't heard from, so hopefully he is okay. Date of release today will be a few weeks' time from the recording, that is, but when this is released, Wednesday the 22nd of July here in Australia, which is actually World Brain Day. It's a day organised by the World Federation of Neurology each year to raise awareness about brain health and neurological disorders. Great excuse to share brain teasers or interesting neuroscience facts. So get out there and make sure your brain is healthy and you're challenging it today, as I'm sure Luke and Ryan are away doing. We don't have clues for you today, given that it's just myself on the recording. So I'll just jump straight into the intro. Our guest today is married to a husband of 9 years. She has 2 young boys. Her hobbies and schedule revolves around her 2 boys, school, daycare, activities, birthday parties, and something that many people don't know about her is that she's a Disney adult, but a lot of people might not know that she used to be a cast member at Walt Disney World in Florida. Still some of her fondest memories today. Our guest today from Sydney here in Australia is Abigail Reyel-Enriquez.
As long as you're comfortable doing it by yourself.
Oh, absolutely fine. Welcome to the Remembering Them podcast. Officially, Abby, thank you very much for joining us. Just down the highway, not just down, about 8 or 9 hours from here in Brisbane, in Sydney. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's cold today.
Yeah, it is cooler up here. Brisbane traditionally a little bit warmer than Sydney, but yeah, we're definitely hitting the midst of winter. That's for sure. Thanks again for school holidays too. So I know you've got your hands full with the 2 young ones, and I do too. So I can feel your pain there. So if either side of us have little ones jumping in the background, we know what's going on. Apologies to our listeners or anyone watching. Okay. Yeah, complete understanding here.
Yeah.
Abby, if you'd like to jump straight in, tell us who we're talking about today, their relationship to you, their name, a little bit about them, and what happened to that special loved one.
Yeah, so it's not every day I get to talk about my beautiful mom. So I did lose my amazing mom, Elizabeth, in October of 2024. Prior to that, she was diagnosed with aggressive cancer. We were still unsure what it was, but it had to do with her gallbladder because she was having issues. She was diagnosed in January 2024, and then she passed about 10 months later.
Yeah. So not that long ago. And interesting you say that you don't get an opportunity much to talk about your mum. Is that what you've found, post her passing a couple of years ago, that there aren't?
Yeah, look, grief is something that people just shy away from. And I've found that more and more I talk about it and share about my grief journey on social media, the more people relate to it. But it's different when you're talking to someone over social media or over like a screen than when you talk to them in person, because I think people still tend to shy away from stories about my mom when I'm talking to them in person. But when I'm like messaging them online, they're like okay to talk about her.
Open book. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's so weird. And I I don't know if you've experienced this. It's probably the same for you. I just want to talk about her all the time, but I don't have the opportunity to do so because people probably think that I don't want to, or they don't want to open any floodgates. They don't want me to cry. They don't want me to get sad. And so they change the subject.
Yeah.
And that's what I found has been quite challenging when I do want to open up.
Yeah. Probably a little bit unusual to others that you speak to because that happens all the time to us. We're speaking to people, every day, and we're fortunate that we hear those stories and memories. But it's a common thing, Abby, that we get a lot of people saying that I do want to talk about them. Even if I do get sad, even if I do cry, even if I have those moments, I do want to talk about my loved ones. So it's certainly not uncommon from what we hear, but I think very, very common in society to feel that
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
No, definitely. It's you don't realize it until you're in it. Because I am probably a little bit, I've forgotten the word. Where prior to losing my mom, I would also shy away from grief.
Yeah,
And
of course.
like I've had friends that had already lost their dads before. And I probably have like never I don't think I've ever really checked up on them until I went through it myself. And even like prior to losing my mom, the anticipatory grief of her, of like seeing her deteriorate, and then also just bracing myself for the reality of it. I then realized, oh my God, I haven't reached out to this person or to like my friend from like 10 years ago that had gone through this. Like I'm just going through it now and it sucks. It really is so different. And you just also feel like you've been a fool, like not knowing it beforehand.
Yeah. Would you say uh, now that you've experienced it, even maybe not hearing from people or getting questions from people that haven't been through it, you're okay with that because you know that you were that person? If that question makes sense, you were in that position
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, I don't normally like I will probably not think anything of it because again they haven't gone through it themselves, and I think I give people that grace, and just that patience of knowing like it's as bad as it sounds. I'm like, you'll get there.
Yes.
You know, you
Absolutely,
will,
you will.
everyone will experience this loss in their lives, and it's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
And like I think I've been a lot more understanding in that regard.
Yeah. Abby, what was that experience like for you? You mentioned the anticipatory side of it, and then also post your mum passing for the last couple of years. What has that grief journey been like for yourself up to this point?
The anticipatory grief. So if it's okay, I'll just backtrack a little
Yeah,
bit
absolutely. Yeah.
with the journey. So October 2023, um, we were like kind of on a high. We were enjoying ourselves. My sister was turning 40. We were on the Disney cruise. We were on the Disney cruise from Sydney, and then it was just going around from Sydney to Hobart, and we were like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." But little did I know that my mom was already hurting at the time. She was with us on the cruise, and I didn't see any pain. Like I didn't see anything from her. I didn't get the vibe that she was, like she probably needed medical help. Um, we were walking in Hobart, like when we docked, we were walking in Hobart, and she was like, kind of tired. You guys walk ahead. I'll just stay here. Didn't think anything anything of it because she's just of that age. So I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. And then my sisters mentioned, like before we checked into the cruise, she was actually experiencing stuff. And then I'm like, oh, why didn't they let me know? Because I don't live with them anymore. I have a family of my own. My sisters still live with my mom. And so I'm like, oh, why didn't they tell me? And then obviously they don't tell me a lot of things because they don't want to burden me. I already have two kids of my own, what's that gonna be more stressful on my end? And so after the cruise, we were fine. And then next thing you know, my sisters are like, we're gonna rush mom to emergency. She's not well. And then I think her gallbladder was already infected. And so they were having an emergency removal of it. But that emergency removal, I think it's actually called an ERCP. Like, don't ask me what it stands for, but the procedure is it's an ERCP. It's meant to be like a day surgery. It's like a keyhole surgery. They get it out. It was delayed over, God, a period of 2 weeks. And prior to that procedure, you can't eat, you can't drink much. So she pretty much starved for like almost 2 weeks because they kept postponing her surgery. And they kept giving a reason of, she had a temperature, we can't do the procedure. And then the next couple of days later, oh, someone tested for COVID on the ward, so we need to like postpone it again. And there were so many issues to the point where we were like, we can't bring her home with us because she's really not well. And I think at that moment, there were times where I thought we were already going to lose her because she was just in so much pain. She had lost so much weight between October to November. And we were also like getting priests in also for context, we're Catholic. And so my mom is a hardcore Catholic. She's like, I want the priest in, I want someone to bless me, give me the oil of anointing of the sick. And then got a priest in, and I think I recorded it, and I was just like, is this it? Like in my head, I'm like, I'm not ready. Like, are we going to lose her already? And then eventually she back and forth appointments and whatnot. We were like, let's just go to the private hospital and get it removed. And then it was like, no, it's okay. The public hospital was like, it's okay, we can do it here. Finally, they got it removed, and we're like, yay, we're going to have her home for Christmas. We got her home 3 days before Christmas, which was really good. And she was still in a lot of pain. She was just sitting down a lot. And even when we were opening our Christmas presents, she was like not as smiley. And then Christmas went, New Year's Day went, and I had this like feeling in the pit of my stomach. I was like, I'm exhausted. I'm like, but I don't know if this is the end of it. Because, like, yeah, we got her gallbladder out, but she still is very, very weak. And then just after New Year, January 14, 2024, you get all these like dates stuck in your head as well. January 14, 2024. I get a message from my sister. She's like, hey, we had to rush mom to the hospital. She had a stroke. And then I was like, I think I just broke down because of like, we've had so many doctor's visits on and off from October to December that I was just exhausted. But I'm also like bracing myself for that next text message, that next call of like, hey, this is happening. And yeah, it came January 14. And I was like, I broke down, and my husband was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, she had a stroke. Like, we got to go to the hospital. And he's like, yeah, but just like calm down, because you don't want to get any worse, you don't want to go in there and then your mom sees you like hysterical. um and then after that, like just seeing her in the ICU when she finally woke up, and it's like just this, you see her just like a lot smaller than what you remember her. It's like she shrunk for some reason, and she's just like staring at the ceiling, and I'm like wondering what's going through her head. And with strokes, it's like your brain is affected and your memory is affected, and like thankfully she remembers us. And she was like cracking jokes, and you're like, I'm all fine, I'm fine, I remember everything. And our mother tongue is Tagalog, we're Filipino, and she was speaking in Filipino just fine. And the nurses were asking her hundreds of questions, and she could answer them just fine. And then fast forward 9 days later, she had her second stroke. And I was like, this is not normal. I remember it clear as day. I was at work, and I literally just remembered telling my workmate, like, oh, my mom had her stroke last week, like 9 days ago. And like, I don't know if she's okay, but yeah, like I'm bracing myself for what's next. And then, yeah, lo and behold, my sister calls me frantic. She's really like crying into the phone. She's like, Abby, I think this is it. You need to come now. You need to come home. I think we might lose mom. I'm like, what's happening? And she's like, she's having a stroke. She just stopped talking out of nowhere. They were asking her questions, and like how funny it was that that was the day I had scheduled our parish priest to come see her and just like ask her, how are you? Like, let me bless you. Let me give you the bread. And she just froze, and like I think a part of like her mouth kind of, she was like slurring a little bit, and then she like kind of tilting to the side. And at that point, January 2024, kids are still on school holidays. My son was home, my son was with them, and he saw it all. Like he could see his grandma, what he calls his oma. He could see his oma just freeze. And he's like, Oma, um, can you say house? Can you say house? And she's looking at him, and she's just like smiling, like she wants to say something, but nothing was coming out.
Mm.
And that's when they realized, we need to get the ambulance in. And they called the ambulance, rushed her to emergency. And I was just like, I didn't know if I was well enough to drive. And I broke down at work. I remember breaking down at work, and my HR manager was just like having to force me to stop working, because she's like, you can't you can't do any work today. You are in no headspace to do anything work related. You need to tend to your family. You need to go to your mom. We can call you an Uber to get to the hospital. And I was like, no, it's all good. Like I'll drive. Like I took like, I don't know, maybe half an hour. I was like, what if I get there? And things were going in my head, like, what if I get there and she's gone? And I was just like, I don't know. Like, am I ready for that? I got there, and she was already in the operating room. They were already taking out her blood clot. And we were waiting for what seemed like forever. I think we were waiting for like 5 hours. And they said the operation was only going to take like an hour. We were waiting for 5 hours. At that point, my mom's brother, my auntie, her sister-in-law was already there as well. And we were all just crying together. We were just crying. We're like, is she strong enough to survive a second stroke? And she was. She did. I, again, in the ICU. Walked up to her and she looked like she had shrunk again. And she's like colorless, just staring up at the ceiling. And I'm like, I was shaking because I don't know if she'll remember me at that point, because the doctor was like, look, second stroke is a lot more serious. We don't know how her brain is. Just be like gentle with her. Like, hi, mom. And she looked at me and she was like blank face. And I was like, oh my God, like, mom. And she calls me by my sister's name. And I was like, no, I'm Abby. And she goes, no, you're Audrey. No, I'm Abby. And she looked at me and she's like, no, Audrey. And at that moment, I just had to step back and I had to go behind the curtain and I was just crying, just bawling my eyes out quietly. And the nurse, she saw me. She's like, look, I know it's very confronting. It's very raw, but just think about the battle that her brain just had to fight then. The fact that she is speaking is a gift. And so, yeah, like she said, for now, let her brain try and remember things. And so, yeah, I was just like, okay, I'm Audrey. I guess I'm Audrey for today. And yeah, like, it's just one of those things. You just remember it clear as day. And it was just one of those memories where it hits you like a ton of bricks. And has my loved one forgotten me? That's where the anticipatory grief started growing even more. And at that point, I had to cut a lot of things in my, like, social media was a big thing in my life, and I just like cut it cold turkey for 3 months. I was like, I need to just focus my attention on my family and also give some capacity to work. So I just had time for work and family. I didn't have anything else at that point. And it was such sacred time, I think. I really treasured January to March. I treasured those moments and just trying to be as present as I could with my mom. And it was, I think a lot of it, I was still trying to accept that I was in this journey already. There was a lot of soul searching in that. I'm like, I knew I was losing myself. I knew I was losing bits of myself. And I was like, I need to find myself again. I need to do this and that. But little did I know that I would lose myself, like a big chunk of myself through that journey. Yeah. Just
So that's the timeline to March, and then how long then until? So it seemed. Correct me if I'm wrong here. October to December was the gallbladder issue, and then the strokes followed that into early 2024, and then recovered after the second stroke. And then what happened then? How long before you lost your mum after that?
This is a paid partnership with BetterHelp. Hey Luke and Ryan, life gets heavy sometimes, especially when grief hits. For me, that weight often shows up as anxiety.
Yeah, it's not always one big thing. Sometimes it's just life piling up, work, relationships, trying to hold it all together. Suddenly I'm anxious and don't know why.
Totally. I used to think anxiety meant panic attacks, but for me, it's more like overthinking every choice or feeling like I'm never doing enough.
And it can even hit on good days. Out of nowhere, I'm spiraling over things that haven't even happened yet.
It's easy to feel alone in it, but you're not.
That's why we're talking about our paid partner, BetterHelp.
BetterHelp connects you with credentialed therapists who can help manage anxiety and more.
Most people go to BetterHelp for anxiety, and 69% feel better after just 6 weeks.
Getting started is simple. Fill out a quick questionnaire and get matched with a therapist. If it's not a fit, you can switch at any time.
Their support team is super responsive, and with over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 Trustpilot rating, it's a platform you can count on.
So let BetterHelp help manage your anxiety so it doesn't manage you.
Click the link below or go to betterhelp.com/rememberingthem for 10% off your first month.
Yeah. So from the second stroke was January
Yeah.
to October. It was more like, what are the next steps? And we were asking the doctor, what her oncologist eventually, he was like, your mom has aggressive cancer and it's cancer of the gallbladder. It's called biliary cancer, even though her gallbladder has been taken out. A lot of the nodes have spread to different parts of her body. He didn't use the word metastasized, but I kind of gathered through all my research at that time that that's what was happening. And I was like, hey, doc, so is there a prognosis? And he's like, I can't tell you that. It can range from like 3 months to 5 years, like it just really depends on how your mom responds to these next steps. And the next steps were chemo. And if she was responding well to chemo, maybe we could move her on to immunotherapy. And so March, it was very quick. He was like, in 2 weeks' time, she'll start chemo. And then it will be every 2 weeks from there that she'll do chemo. And she responded well. I still have that photo that I took on her first day. And she was like smiling in the chair, waiting for them to put the tubes in. And I was just like, man, I wish I could go back to that day and just ask her more of like, what are you feeling, Mom? What do you think? What are you hoping for? What are these next steps going to do for you? But I think I kind of knew that what she was hoping for. March, chemotherapy. We went for a little staycation to Mogo, down, God, is it down south? Yeah, down south, Sydney. And we just like connected as a family, and we just enjoyed just spending time with Mom. And this is what she wanted. She did want us to all go away, because in her head, it's it might be the last. But I was still of that thinking like, you have a few more years, Mom. You're good. Like you got this. Like, you're the strongest woman I know. And then I think I should mention as well, like just these little signs that I look back on now. March was my birthday as well. And I normally like to go away on my birthday, like with my family. And so I booked this like trip to Hamilton Island with just me, my husband, and my kids. And then I said to my mom, I was like, Mom, we're going to go away for my birthday. Okay. This was at the hospital. I'm like such a hypocrite, right? At the hospital, I'm like, hey, Mom, we're going to go away for my birthday. Is that okay? And then she looked at me and she's like, can you postpone it? And I think when she said that, I normally would not, but I took that, like, I took that as a sign of something. And so I said, look, we're canceling this trip for now. Let's do that. And yeah, so we canceled it. And my birthday wish, we went to a restaurant. She sat down next to me and I got my in-laws there, and cake came out and I was blowing up my candle. And I was like, God, you know what my wish is. I wanted her there for at least another year, that this was not going to be my last birthday with her. And I think in hindsight, the universe was like, it's good that you stayed. That was your last birthday with her. And she wanted you to know that. She asked for you to stay. And it's just those little signs that I look back on and I'm like, thank God I stayed, because if I had gone, I enjoyed my time, I would not get over that guilt of just like not having her there for my last birthday with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so that was March. June, oncologist was like, um, your scans look fine. Like you look like you're improving. I don't see as much nodules anymore, which is very good. We'll do a couple more chemo sessions, and then we'll move you on to immunotherapy. And I was like, amazing, amazing. And I was at that doctor's appointment with her. I remember I was working from home. And yeah, I was at that doctor's appointment with her and my dad. And she looked at me and she's like, I get to live a bit more. And like, I was happy, but there was a bigger part in me that was sad. I was a lot more sad than happy. And I was just like, yay, yeah, mom, that's good. And like I said bye to them after that appointment, and I was driving home and just like tears on my jumper. And I was just like, why am I so sad? Like she gets to live. Why am I sad? And I think a part of me was just like, this can't, this is too good to be true. Like I can't celebrate so early now, because they said aggressive cancer. She is in her late 60s. Like who in their late 60s gets to conquer this, you know? And I was just like, I should be thankful. I should be grateful that that's the news. But why do I feel this way? And it took a couple more months for me to be like, maybe she is getting better. June, July, August. Yeah, maybe she is getting better. We'll move her on to immunotherapy. And I would go to her immunotherapy sessions and she would feel better. And they were less draining on her body, which she liked. But then after a couple of immunotherapy sessions, she like got worse. And yeah, we saw the oncologist and we were like, I thought this was supposed to make her better. And they're like, look, this is one of those instances where we're trying to understand why the immunotherapy is making her worse. And it's like a part of her, and I'm still trying to understand that, which part it was that got an infection from the immunotherapy. And so they had to give her antibiotics. They needed to stop all treatment at that time. And that was September. And this was me wanting to get away from all of the chaos at the moment. It was going to be school holidays, and I had booked Japan for me and my boys. And I was like, hey, mom, we're going to go Japan just for a couple weeks. You've been fine. You've been fine. My sisters are here. Dad's here. Like, you're going to be okay, right? And I was waiting for her to give that same kind of thing from my birthday of like, can you cancel it? She goes, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And I was like, okay, if she's fine, I'm gonna go. So went on that trip. Even my sisters were like, she's fine. We're good. Like, you go. You need to just de-stress. I know it's a very stressful time for everyone. You go. Yeah, I went, and I would like call my mom and message my mom every day. And her like messages kept getting like shorter and shorter. And I came home. It was October 6 or 7. I remember our flight was even delayed coming into Sydney. It was the long weekend, the Labor Day long weekend. And she was like, "Hey, when you land and you've um, put all your things aside, can you just come over? Like, just you." And I said, "Okay, yeah." And so I came, and like she was just in bed. She was not getting up. She could barely stand up. And her voice was very weak. And I'm like holding her hand as she's like trying to sleep. And she's like, "Your dad's telling me to not worry about things. Like, I keep stressing about things on the house and the garden and to upgrade this and that." And I'm like, "Mom, like, you shouldn't worry about that. That's not part of, you have a bigger thing to worry about, which is your health." I said, "This is exactly what Dad was saying. Stop worrying about things that you can't control. It's only your health that you need to worry about." And then so she's like, "Yeah, I know. Normally she'll be like she's very outspoken, and she'd be like, "No, I can do this, I can do that." But I think she kind of like surrendered. She's like, "Yeah, I know. I'll leave it to you guys. I know you guys can do it." And yeah, I went to work the next day after that public holiday. I went to work, and my sister was like, "Hey, mom's really not feeling well. So we're just gonna call the ambulance now, and she'll go back to emergency, and then we'll see how she goes." And at that point, we've gone through hundreds of doctor's appointments, hundreds of emergency stays. Like, I'm not even joking, hundreds. Um, and I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." And the emergency wait is long. It's not like you're there for an hour and they see you. You're there for like 5, 6 hours. And I waited. I was like, I wasn't in a rush to get out of work. I was just like, "Hey, I'm gonna go now. My mom's being rushed to emergency again, but I'll work on my laptop when I get there." And then I got there to emergency, and it was just my dad and my mom that rode the ambulance. Younger sister was at home. She was going to follow. My older sister was at work, and she was going to follow too. And I'm in ER talking to the doctor. She's like, "Look, your mom's very sick." I'm like, "I know that. Your mom's very sick. Like, do you have any family that wants to see her?" And I was like, "Yeah, my sisters are coming." And she's like, "Do you have any more family that wants to see her? Like, call everyone." And I was like, "Huh?" And I remember they were talking about how low her sodium was. Her blood pressure was so low. They hooked her up to an IV and tried to give her um, sodium, all the minerals she needed, through a bag, and tried to see if she was going to improve. And they had gone through like 2 bags, and she still hadn't improved. And so at that point, I sometimes I do like voice recordings on my phone, because if my sisters aren't there, I at least want to relay back to them what has been said, because I may not be of that frame of mind to say it. And also, I'm not a doctor, right? Like, I can't say things medically. And so I was recording it, and the doctor was like, your mom is dying. And I'm like, again, I know that, but I didn't know, like, she meant like, I don't, like, he has
Yeah.
very little time left.
Yeah.
And like, prior to that emergency visit, everything has been arranged. Like, she was gonna go into hospice. She had a nurse come into the house every week to help with just like hygiene and stuff. And I didn't know all of that had been arranged. And so in my head, I was like, okay, maybe in a couple weeks she might go into hospice. And yeah, the doctor was like, your mom is dying. And she looks at my mom, and my mom can still speak. She was still of good frame of mind. She knew what was happening. And the doctor was like, Elizabeth, I don't even know. Have I said my mom's name?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank goodness. Sorry,
Yeah.
Mom. She's like, Elizabeth, I want you to rethink the DNR, the do not resuscitate.
Mm-hmm.
I know you haven't signed it, but I want you to rethink signing it. Because if your heart fails and we bring you back, we will just bring you back to cause more pain to then kill you again. And I was like, my mind was getting blown. I was like, is this really happening right now? Like, this conversation is happening in front of me. And my dad was like, what do you mean? Like, she's like, I don't want to sign it. I don't know what's happening. And she was like so scared. She like that look of terror on her face is something I will never forget. And the doctor was like, I'll leave you to it. I need you to rethink it because I don't want to bring you back and cause more pain. And I was like, at that point, I called my sisters and I was like, you guys need to get your asses out here, like right now, like now. And they're like, yeah, we're coming. And I was like, you don't understand, like right now. And they came and then they were like, yeah, we got this. And then I was telling them the situation. They're like, what do you mean? And at that point, then the doctor was talking to them as well, telling them what was happening. And we had called all of our family. My mom has a sister here. She has two brothers here, plus the in-laws and all of our cousins. I think apart from one or two cousins, everyone else came that night. That night, we were given like the biggest room in the ER, in the emergency department, and they were like, we can give you a priest, and we got a priest. And I was just like, she has like a couple more weeks at least. She has a couple more weeks. And we're even calling our relatives like overseas. I'm like, hey, just to let you know, like, we're not being told exactly what's happening and how much time she has, but it might not be much. So we're just giving you the heads up. If you want to talk to her, like, we can FaceTime you right now. And we did. We FaceTime some people. And they're like, yeah, just be strong and all that. Yeah. And that was, God, October 8th. That was October 8th. We came back from Japan a couple days ago. And we were just like, I was even just catching up with my relatives. They're like, how's Japan? I was like, don't really want to talk about it right now. And we did the prayer. We ordered KFC. We ordered a bunch of KFC, and the doctor was like, look, we're going to admit your mom into a ward now. We'll only like immediate family, only like 4 people can come. Everyone else has to stay back. And so they were like, it's okay. We'll go to the park across the street. So we went to the park across the street, kind of like gathered, ate KFC. Like we took turns. Like, I think my sisters were there, and then eventually they came and then we kind of swapped. And then eventually everyone left at 8:30 p.m. God, we were in emergency from like 2 p.m. They left at 8:30 p.m. My mom was admitted up to a ward, and I was holding her hand, and I was just like, "Mom, you're okay, all right? Like, you do what the doctor says. Try and take in some liquids, try and take in some solids if you can." She was asking for like yogurt and stuff, and I gave that. She could only get a little bit of it. And she said, "You guys go home. You guys go home. I I'll be fine. Like your sister, Alyssa, my older sister, will stay with me tonight, and then you guys can see me in the morning." I said, "Okay, yeah, yeah, okay, that seems fine." She looked fine. She sounded fine too. Look, when I say looked fine, she looked like she was still, a couple weeks there. And um, yeah, my husband, at that point, my husband had come. My kids stayed back. Had to get my brother-in-law to look after them just for a little bit. And then, yeah, she's like, "You guys go home to the boys. The boys need you." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And yeah, started driving off, because at that point I came from work and my husband came from home. So we drove separately, and we were obviously going to go home separately. And I was driving, my husband was following me in the back, and he could just see my car stop. Like, I just stopped in the middle of nowhere because my sister had called me, and she's like screaming like, "Abby, you need to come and turn around now, like right now. Something has happened." And I parked the car in the middle of the street. I was frantic. I got out, and I was just like, I was about to collapse. I'm like, "I don't know what to do. I don't think I can drive back to the hospital," which was just 5 minutes away. I just drove 5 minutes down. And my husband's like, I'll be behind you. I'll be right behind you, making sure you're okay." And yeah, he led me. He watched me go. He watched me park the car, and he drove me to like the entrance. And he's like, "Keep me updated." And he ran to the kids because he also didn't want his brother waiting there like overnight. We didn't know what was happening, right? Again, this has been a little bit drawn out. And got to the room, and my mom had like turned the corner. She didn't look right. Like, her eyes were kind of like bulging out, and my sisters were like, she collapsed. She collapsed on the bed because she needed to go to the toilet. And they were telling her she could just go in the bedpan. She's like, "No, I need to go to the toilet." They're like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine." But because her blood pressure was already so low, she stood up and she just fainted. She collapsed back onto the bed. They needed to kind of like bring her to without forcing CPR because they will probably break her bones. She had lost so much weight already. That was like 10:30 p.m. I am holding my mom's hand, and my other sister's holding her other hand. My dad and Audrey had gone out to talk to the doctors because we're looking at the doctors and the nurses going, "Why aren't you helping out? Can you help? Can you do something for our mom? She's like, she's like in pain, and she's in pain. She looks like she's lost some consciousness. Like, do something." And they just like walked away. And that's still something that like sits rent free in my head. That vision of them just walking away. About 30-40 minutes later, she was gone. I was holding her hand the whole time, and she was gone. And I just was like, did not anticipate that. From the moment I opened my eyes up that day to losing her at the end of the day, like I did not fathom that. And we needed to make that message, we needed to write that message to all our family members, and they probably just like read it in the morning of that, like we lost her.
Mm.
And so technically it's funny that people ask me when did she pass. Officially it's October 9, but technically she passed October 8. It's just because we were fighting with the nurses and the doctors to like what's happening, and then we finally like were not as angry anymore to like let the doctor in and pronounce her gone officially on the 9th of October, and it was like 12:30 a.m. But we knew she was gone before that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a very long story.
No, it was. I think it's amazing that you could recount it in such detail. And basically that year of hospital visits and the gallbladder and then the strokes, and then so it's unsurprising for me hearing that as a stranger that it was another hospital visit, and there was no expectation that you would lose her that that day. So I appreciate the detail that you went into, and it's amazing. It's really great that you can recount it, to be honest, because it's something you can look back on and say, yeah, I can remember this. I can remember the doctors walking away. I can remember waking up that day, and so I think it's great you can remember that. Listeners, I just paused that for a moment there with Abby, because we've spent a good part of this hour talking about that illness journey over that 12-month period with Elizabeth. And I think it was really important. It doesn't detract from the conversation at all, or what we're trying to, I guess, the grief conversation as a whole. But I think it's fantastic that Abby was able to recount it in such accuracy and vividness. What I did pause it for just quickly then is to float an idea with Abby to have her back later this week, and you'll hear this in succession from a podcast perspective week-wise, but we're going to have Abby back later this week to really talk about Elizabeth more as a person, as a mom, as a grandmother.
I promise my mom was very fun.
Yes, and we're looking forward to hearing about that. So Abby, as we wrap up today, what I wanted to ask you on the back of losing your mum and unexpectedly, for people that might be in that battle at the moment as a daughter, or as a stepdaughter, or someone as close to their mother as you were, what advice would you give someone that is in the mix of it? Because I know you mentioned a couple of times there, looking back on this, looking back on that, I wish I asked this or did that differently. What piece of advice would you give to someone in your position that's with their, mom or close family member that is going through some sort of battle?
The Remembering Them podcast is supported by My Legacy Message. How do you want to be remembered? My Legacy Message provides a service that delivers a personalized keepsake video to your loved ones, often as a surprise after you pass. My Legacy Message, be remembered.
I document everything. Take the videos, do the voice recordings. If you can, get them to leave a voicemail for you and save it, because you will keep looking back on those memories later on, and you wish, and if you can, interview them, do a video interview with them, because that's something that I wish I did. Just didn't get the chance to do so. So yeah, like I would say try and interview them and start from like square one of like the question.
Yeah, that's really, really great advice. What about from a relationship or health perspective, or is there any other bits of advice with the what I'm trying to get to, and I'm asking really is poorly, but I guess from the anticipatory side of things and preparedness for
Mhm.
losing them. I know it was really unexpected for yourself with your mum. You were hoping, for another year to get to an extra birthday and an extra
Yeah,
Christmas or whatever it might be. But what about for the um, grief preparation side of things?
like for the after
Yeah, yeah,
it. Um, I God, I would probably say just take your time to feel things because grief isn't something that should be rushed, and there is no timeline for grief. The bigger you love, the bigger your grief is. So there's no there's no measuring it.
yeah.
People,
I heard a quote. I don't want to butcher it, but it was something along the lines of um, grief is a receipt of or receipts for love. So how much that person was loved. So the more you feel, the greater the love was, and something like that. I'm sorry if I
yes.
have butchered the
No,
quote,
no,
but
I
something
totally
along
makes
those
sense.
lines. Yeah. Well, Abby, again, thank you so much for recounting that in such vividness and accuracy. I think it was really important. I know you certainly don't apologize for not talking about other things, but we will have you back to talk about those other things, which I'm really really looking forward to. Thank you so much for giving up your time and talking about that whole period. I know it was a very difficult period. Obviously, it goes without saying, but equally, I think it was really nice in a way to hear about how you went through it and the different things that you went through yourself, but also as a family. Because I think potentially there will be people out there that will be listening to this that are going through exactly what you're going through, and to know that they're not alone in
Yep.
that sort of battle. So appreciate you giving up your time, and welcome. I can't wait to have you back and talk about
Thank
more
you.
the
Thank you for
more the more funny side of things with Elizabeth, and more the light side of things.
thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it and I look forward to that.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Well, listeners, that was Abby from Sydney, just down the east coast from where we are in Brisbane. As I mentioned there, we're going to have it back this Friday, but you'll hear it weekly in succession with our podcast recordings to hear more about Elizabeth, as a person, as a mum, as a grandmother, and all of those lighter things, I guess, in terms of memories before she got sick and went through her cancer battle and leading into stroke and then eventually her passing. But I do thank Abby for joining us today and recounting that horrible time. But as I mentioned to Abby, off the mic there, I think it's just as important to recount those stories in vivid memory, because happy just to let her talk through that, because I think it's obviously something that she remembers quite. Fondly is not the right word, but I think is an important memory of her mum at the end of her time with them. So, and what that time was like and what she went through and the feelings and all the rest of it, because off the back of that, she'll, that this will affect her grief following that for the next however many years, a couple of years on from there. So appreciate you, Abby, for coming on and recounting that terrible time for yourself and the family, but also looking forward to having you back later this week to hear about Elizabeth more on a lighter level. Reminder to our listeners, we have the partnership with BetterHelp, so betterhelp.com/remembering them for 10% off your first month subscription. If you are needing any conversations with a credentialed therapist, reminder that we have the My Legacy message service as well. So very, very interesting that at the end of the conversation there, Abby spoke about recording everything and getting those stories from their mum and a piece of advice and just any bits of stories and that sort of thing from their loved ones. And that's exactly what the service is, mylegacymessage.com.au, to leave a video message to your loved ones, often a surprise after you pass. And it's something that we really, really believe in the podcast. So very interesting that Abby had that advice for someone that's in the midst of losing someone, or in that 12 months or 18 months, wherever that unknown time frame might be. So important to have those video conversations or voice recordings, as Abby mentioned. Reminder to follow us on all of our socials, Instagram being the main one, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube we're on. Please share this story for anyone that you feel will enjoy it, I guess, but benefit from it is the other thing. So if someone is going through something and you think this conversation with Abby, part 1, that is, will help them, please share this story, plus any of our other conversations that we've had. A reminder also to rate and review us on your preferred podcast platform. That would help us, 5 stars ideally, that would help us show up on anyone that's looking for a grief-related conversation. Thank you very much for listening today to part 1 with Abby. We look forward to having her back and hearing more stories and memories of her mum, Elizabeth. Thank you very much, Abby. Thank you very much for listening, and looking forward to the next conversation with Abby. Thank you. Bye. Love you. Bye.
The Remembering Them podcast is created for entertainment purposes. Mark, Ryan, and Luke are not licensed mental health professionals. If you would like to discuss your mental well-being, several resources are available in Australia. Information about these services are available in the podcast notes. Please take the time to contact your loved one today and tell them how much you appreciate and love them.